The planet of Zeralon shone under two suns, its surface a swirl of golden deserts and silver mountains. In the capital city, the grand military headquarters towered high above the streets, gleaming like a fortress of polished metal. Inside, General Xylar stood rigidly in front of a massive holographic map, his four eyes scanning the data with sharp precision. Every movement, every calculation had been planned down to the smallest second. Today, he was preparing the most important operation of his career, a mission to secure the border from a mysterious alien fleet that had appeared in the system. Xylar was a proud being. In the Zyralonian military, success meant order, precision, and control. Mistakes were unacceptable. Yet today, a new variable had been introduced, one he had not anticipated. "General," a subordinate reported, "the human ambassador has arrived as requested by the Interstellar Council." Xylar's four eyes narrowed. Humans. He had heard of them before, of their chaotic tendencies, unpredictable decisions, and strange ability to survive the most impossible situations. They were not soldiers. They were diplomats, yet somehow the Council insisted that humans be involved in this operation. "Very well," Xylar said, his voice cold and steady. "Bring the human here. I will assess their usefulness." Moments later, a human man stepped into the room. He was not tall, but his posture was confident. His eyes were bright with curiosity and intelligence. He smiled politely at Xylar and bowed slightly. "Greetings, General Xylar. I am Alex Carter, ambassador from Earth. I'm here to assist in your operation," the human said. Xylar studied him carefully. Every human he had encountered before had been sloppy, loud, or rude. Yet this one seemed calm. That made Xylar even more suspicious. Humans who appeared calm often caused the most unexpected trouble. "Assist," Xylar repeated, his voice flat. "You are to follow orders and observe the protocols of Zeralonian operations. Any deviation will be—" "Noted," Alex nodded. "Understood, General. I will do my best." Xylar's first impression was that this human was either very brave or very foolish. He decided to test him immediately. "Good. Your first task is simple. Review the troop deployment plans and report any errors. You have 20 minutes. Alex approached the holographic map. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, studying the formation of Zyralonian units, their supply lines and timing sequences. Xylar watched silently, his multiple eyes narrowing with suspicion. After several minutes, Alex spoke. "General, I noticed that the supply convoy for the northern sector could be intercepted if the enemy notices the patrol pattern. A small adjustment in timing could prevent losses." Xylar froze for a moment. No human had ever suggested a change to his plans without permission. "Explain," he demanded. Alex pointed at the map. "If you move the convoy's departure forward by 3 Zyralonian hours, it will pass through a hidden canyon. This makes it nearly invisible to enemy scanners. Also, the patrol ships could be redistributed to cover more ground without risking exposure." Xylar felt a strange sensation in his chest, a mixture of irritation and grudging respect. The human's suggestion was clever, but it disrupted the perfect schedule he had prepared. "You would alter my plan," Xylar said slowly, his voice low. "Yes, General," Alex replied calmly, "but only to improve the chances of success." Xylar clenched his claws. This human was audacious, and yet the logic behind his suggestion was undeniable. After a tense pause, Xylar said, "Very well. Implement your adjustment. But know this. If it fails, the consequences will be yours to bear." Alex nodded, his face steady. "Understood." As Alex left to coordinate with the Zeralonian officers, Xylar returned to the map, muttering to himself. Humans, unpredictable, yet sometimes useful. That night, as the sun set behind the Silver Mountains, Xylar sat in his quarters, reviewing every detail of the mission once again. He could not stop thinking about the human ambassador. There was something different about him, something the Zeralonians had not encountered before. Meanwhile, Alex moved among the troops, introducing himself politely, asking questions and observing procedures. He did not simply follow orders. He learned the rhythm of the alien army, noticing small inefficiencies and potential dangers. Where Zyralonian officers saw rigidity, Alex saw opportunities. By midnight, a faint tension filled the capital. The alien fleet outside the planet's borders had increased activity, signaling that the coming battle was near. Xylar's confidence in his plan was absolute, but he could not shake the thought of the humans' suggestions. Could this unpredictable species actually make a difference? For the first time in his career, Xylar felt a strange mix of anticipation and unease. One thing was certain: this mission would not go exactly as planned. And perhaps he would soon discover that humans, though unpredictable, were capable of surprising even the most disciplined alien generals. The next morning, the Xyrelonian army prepared for the first phase of the border operation. Troops marched in perfect formation, their armor gleaming under the twin suns. Xylar stood at the command platform, eyes scanning every detail. Every soldier, every supply line, every attack route had been planned with precision. Nothing could go wrong, at least that was the plan. Then Alex Carter arrived. He carried a small tablet-like device from Earth and a notebook filled with scribbles. The human ambassador moved through the ranks, asking questions that made Xyrelonian officers frown. "Why are these patrols arranged in exactly 3-hour intervals?" he asked one officer. "Couldn't you stagger them slightly to confuse the enemy?" The officer blinked, unsure how to respond. On Xyrelon, deviation from orders was almost unheard of, but Alex's calm and polite tone made it impossible to argue. The officer nodded, though secretly worried. Xylar observed silently from above. Already the human was changing the atmosphere. The soldiers, who had been moving in precise order, now hesitated at new instructions, adjusting their steps and timing. Xylar's chest tightened. Humans caused disorder wherever they went. Yet somehow there was a method to this one's madness. Alex moved quickly to the supply convoys. "This route is clear, but the enemy could monitor the northern canyon if they notice patterns," he said. "If we switch 2 convoys and slightly adjust the departure times, they'll move unnoticed." The Xyrelonian officers looked at each other nervously. Xylar's plan had been flawless, or so they believed, and now a human was suggesting changes. They followed Alex's instructions, but not without whispering their concerns. By midday, small incidents began. A patrol group, instructed by Alex to take a slightly different path, accidentally entered the path of another unit. Shouts rang out. Confusion spread for a moment, and Xylar's claws clenched with frustration. "Why is this happening?" he muttered. Alex calmly approached. "Minor adjustment, General. It will be corrected in the next few minutes. Trust me." Xylar's 4 eyes narrowed. He wanted to say no, to assert control, but the human's confidence made it difficult. Slowly he nodded. "Proceed," he ordered, his voice tight with restraint. Within the hour, more disruptions occurred. Supplies arrived at the wrong gates. Troops doubled back on their paths and communication signals crossed. Xylar felt as if his perfect plan was unraveling. Yet in the midst of the chaos, Alex moved with ease, coordinating corrections and anticipating problems the aliens had not considered. "General," Alex said, pointing at a holographic display, "the northern units are exposed if they continue on their current schedule. I recommend a slight reroute through the canyon system and temporary deployment of decoy drones. The enemy scanners will pick up the drones instead of your soldiers." Xylar stared at the display. The suggestion disrupted his calculations, but he realized it would work. Slowly, grudgingly, he approved it. "Do it," he said, his voice low. "But remember, if it fails, it will be on your head, human." Alex smiled faintly, already issuing instructions to the troops. Within minutes, the northern units shifted positions. The decoy drones emitted signals that mimicked the soldiers' movements, confusing enemy sensors. Xylar watched in disbelief as his precise timing gave way to unpredictable improvisation, and yet the result was working perfectly. The day continued with more incidents. A transport vehicle got stuck in a canyon. A patrol group accidentally triggered a minor alarm. Alex adapted every time, guiding soldiers, redirecting drones, and using the environment to their advantage. Where Xyrelonians saw mistakes, Alex saw opportunities. By evening, Xylar returned to his quarters exhausted. His plan was in ruins, yet the operation was still on track. He could not decide whether to be angry or impressed. "Humans," he muttered, pacing. "They ruin order, and yet somehow they succeed." Outside, Alex watched the sunset over the golden deserts, noting adjustments for the next day. To him, it had been a challenging but exciting first day. He admired the alien soldiers' discipline, even if it was rigid. He also understood why Xyrelonians underestimated humans. They had never seen flexibility turned into a weapon before. That night, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Zeralonian soldiers whispered about the strange human who had appeared in their midst. He was polite, clever, and utterly unpredictable. Some were skeptical, while others were curious. One thing was certain: Alex Carter had already changed the rhythm of the army, and no one knew what the next day would bring. In his quarters, Sylar stared at the holographic map once more. His plan had been disrupted at every turn. His pride was bruised, and yet a strange feeling grew inside him, something he could not name. Perhaps humans were more than chaotic creatures. Perhaps, just perhaps, they were capable of extraordinary things. The first phase of the operation had ended, but the real challenge was yet to come. Sylar knew that if he wanted to survive the coming battle and protect his planet, he would have to either accept the humans' unpredictable methods or resist them at his own peril. The next morning, the twin suns rose over the deserts of Zeralon, casting long shadows across the Silver Mountains. The alien fleet outside the planet's borders had become more active, their sensors probing the defenses of the Zeralonian army. The time for the first major engagement had come. General Zylar stood on the command platform, rigid as ever. His four eyes scanned the battlefield, every detail already calculated. He trusted his strategy completely, or so he thought. Yet beside him, Alex Carter moved calmly, tablet in hand, watching the movements of both Zeralonian troops and enemy vessels. "General," Alex said, pointing to a holographic display, "the enemy is repositioning faster than your sensors predicted. If we follow the current plan, the northern flank will be exposed in 3 Zeralonian hours." Zylar's chest tightened. He had accounted for every movement, every delay, every possible scenario, yet here was a human pointing out a flaw he had not seen. "Explain," he demanded, his voice firm but tense. Alex's finger traced paths on the holographic map. "We can use the canyon system to our advantage. By sending small strike teams through hidden routes, we can flank their positions without risking the main units. It's risky, but it could prevent heavy casualties." Zylar's pride bristled. Risky. That was exactly the kind of word Zeralonians avoided. They followed rules, calculations, and perfect timing. Yet he could not deny the logic. Slowly, he gave a curt nod. "Proceed. But if this fails, it will be your responsibility." As Alex moved to coordinate with the troops, the battle began. The alien fleet fired warning shots and enemy units advanced across the desert. Zeralonian soldiers followed Zylar's original instructions with precision. Everything appeared to be working, until small strike teams led by human-advised officers veered off the main path and disappeared into the canyon network. Zylar felt tension coil in his chest. Deviation. Chaos. But then reports came in. Enemy sensors had picked up nothing. The small strike teams struck from unexpected angles, disabling key enemy drones and communication arrays. The main units, following Zylar's plan, advanced with less resistance than anticipated. Zylar's four eyes widened slightly. He had not planned for this. The humans' improvisation was working. The enemy responded quickly, sending reinforcements to the northern flank. Panic could have spread among the Zeralonian troops, but Alex moved fast. Using his tablet, he calculated new routes and relayed them to the units. "Shift left by 200 meters. Use the ridges for cover. Timing is critical. Move now." The Zeralonian soldiers hesitated for only a moment before following his instructions. Within minutes, the northern flank was secure, and the enemy's push faltered. Zylar watched in disbelief as a human, someone he considered unpredictable and ill-prepared, had saved his troops from disaster. Yet, the day was far from over. The enemy launched a massive attack on the central supply convoy. Zeralonian officers froze, unsure how to respond. Alex's mind raced. Deploy drones in a staggered pattern. Make them appear larger than they are. Then move the convoy through the side canyon. It will seem as though the convoy is still in its original position. Zylar's heart pounded. This was exactly the kind of creative thinking he despised in principle, but admired in execution. The orders were carried out, and within moments the convoy reached safety. Enemy drones, deceived by the human strategy, wasted energy on false targets. By afternoon, the enemy had suffered heavy losses. Zeralonian soldiers began whispering among themselves, amazed at the human ambassador who seemed to predict enemy moves before anyone else could. Even the officers who had doubted Alex started to follow his instructions. Zylar stood on the command platform, trying to maintain his stern demeanor. "Humans," he muttered under his breath, Utterly unpredictable, and yet useful beyond imagination. Alex approached with a calm smile. General, the enemy is retreating in several sectors. We can consolidate our forces and prepare for the next wave. Xylar's claws clenched. Part of him wanted to scold the human for interfering with his plan. Yet another part, the part he refused to admit, felt relief. The unpredictable human had turned a potential disaster into a clear advantage. As the suns began to set, the battlefield quieted. The Xyrelonian army, battered but victorious, had survived the first engagement thanks in large part to the human ambassador's unconventional strategies. Soldiers spoke in hushed tones about how strange, clever, and fearless Alex Carter had been. In his quarters that evening, Xylar stared at the holographic map again. His meticulously crafted plan had been disrupted at every turn, yet it had succeeded. Slowly he realized a truth that made him uneasy. Sometimes, human unpredictability was not a liability. It was a weapon, Alex. Meanwhile, reviewed the day's events, noting small improvements for tomorrow. He admired the Xyrelonians' discipline, but he also knew that strict order alone could not guarantee victory. It was flexibility, creativity, and quick thinking that often determined the outcome of war. For the first time, Xylar allowed himself to feel a hint of respect for humans. Perhaps this species, so often underestimated, could achieve extraordinary things in the universe. And perhaps if he learned to accept it, they could become the most valuable allies he had ever known. The morning suns rose over Xyrelon, casting long shadows across the desert battlefield. The previous day's engagement had been a surprising victory for the Xyrelonians, but General Xylar knew the enemy would not give up easily. The alien fleet regrouped, stronger and more aggressive than before, while Xylar's meticulously planned strategy now faced even greater challenges. Xylar reviewed the battle maps in his command room. Every unit had a position, every maneuver a precise timing, every contingency accounted for. Or so he thought. Then Alex Carter approached, tablet in hand, his calm human expression unchanged despite the tension in the room. "General," Alex said, pointing to the holographic display, "the enemy is attempting to bypass the northern defenses using hidden canyon routes. If we follow your plan exactly, we will be too late to stop them. I suggest a coordinated diversion using the ridgelines and decoy drones." Xylar's four eyes narrowed. His plan, perfect, precise, flawless, was being challenged again. He gritted his claws. "You would alter my strategy again? My calculations are complete. Deviation could jeopardize everything." Alex smiled faintly. "Sometimes, General, calculations alone are not enough. The unexpected can always happen. If we act quickly, we can turn the enemy's advantage into our own." Xylar hesitated, torn between his pride and the undeniable logic in the human suggestion. With a curt nod, he allowed Alex to implement the changes. "Do it. But know this, if it fails, the blame is yours." As the battle began, chaos erupted immediately. Enemy forces split into multiple waves attempting to overwhelm the Xyrelonian army. Soldiers who had once followed strict routines now found themselves adjusting to Alex's last-minute strategies. Supplies were moved, patrols redirected, and drones deployed in unexpected patterns. For a moment, Xylar feared disaster. His perfect plan was in ruins. The battlefield looked like a storm of confusion, with soldiers and drones moving unpredictably. He felt his pride burning. Everything he had calculated seemed wasted. Yet slowly, reports started coming in. The decoy drones, placed as Alex had advised, tricked enemy sensors. Small strike teams navigated hidden canyon routes, ambushing key enemy units. Even the units on the main front, though following different paths than Xylar had intended, found opportunities to outmaneuver the enemy. "Impressive," muttered a junior officer, almost afraid to speak too loudly. "It's working, even though nothing is according to the original plan." Xylar's heart pounded. He could not deny the truth. The human's improvisation was saving T. A battle. Enemy reinforcements were delayed, supply lines disrupted, and morale among Xyrelonian troops remained strong despite the apparent chaos. By midday, the enemy launched a desperate assault on the central command unit. Xylar's initial instinct was to counterattack using his planned formations. But Alex interrupted. "Wait, General. If we split the defense and use the canyon paths for surprise strikes, we can trap the enemy without risking the main units." Xylar clenched his claws. He hated it. His perfect plan was being completely rewritten on the battlefield. But he allowed it. "Do it," he commanded, voice tight. Minutes later, the strategy unfolded. Zyralonian troops moved along unexpected paths, cutting off the enemy's retreat. The humans' clever deployment of decoys drew enemy units into traps, and the canyon strike teams disabled their heavy weapons. The central command unit, which Xylar had feared might be destroyed, remained intact and fully operational. By late afternoon, the enemy began a full retreat. Their fleet withdrew from Xyralon's borders, battered and disoriented. The battlefield, though chaotic and messy, had resulted in a stunning victory. The Zyralonians had survived, and their enemies were forced back. Xylar, standing on his command platform, could not hide his conflicting emotions. His plan had been ruined, yet the results were undeniable. The human, this unpredictable, audacious creature, had turned potential disaster into triumph. He felt frustration mixed with admiration, a sensation unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Alex approached, smiling faintly. "Congratulations, General. The enemy is retreating. We can consolidate our forces and prepare for the next engagement." Xylar's claws twitched. He wanted to scold the human for interfering with his plan, but he could not. The results spoke for themselves. He forced himself to maintain his stern demeanor. "Your methods, chaotic as they are, have proven effective," he admitted gruffly. The soldiers who had witnessed the human's ingenuity firsthand began murmuring their respect. For the first time, Zyralonians realized that strict discipline alone was not always enough. Adaptability, clever thinking, and a willingness to take calculated risks could turn the tide of battle. That night, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, the capital city of Xyralon was alive with quiet celebration. Xylar retreated to his quarters, staring at the holographic map of the battlefield. His plan had been altered at every turn, yet victory had been achieved. Slowly, he allowed himself to acknowledge a hard truth. Humans, though unpredictable, were capable of extraordinary things. Outside, Alex reviewed the battle with officers, noting improvements for future operations. He admired the Zyralonians' discipline, yet he also understood that rigid structure without flexibility could be a weakness. By combining their strengths with human adaptability, they could face even greater challenges ahead. Xylar, alone in his quarters, muttered to himself, "My plans, ruined and yet victorious humans. They are dangerous and remarkable." For the first time, the proud general considered that perhaps this human ambassador was not just a liability. Perhaps with unpredictability and clever thinking, humans could be the key to protecting Xyralon, and maybe even the galaxy. The battlefield was quiet now, the dust of the previous engagement settling over the golden deserts of Xyralon. The enemy fleet had retreated, leaving the Zyralonian army victorious but weary. Soldiers moved through the camps, tending to the wounded and repairing equipment. Yet among the troops, whispers of admiration spread like wildfire. One name was on everyone's lips: the human ambassador Alex Carter. General Xylar stood on the observation platform, staring out at the desert. The victory had been unexpected. His perfect, precise plans had been ruined repeatedly, yet somehow success had been achieved. Every instinct in him urged him to feel frustrated, but a strange sense of respect lingered instead. Humans were unpredictable, chaotic even, yet they possessed a kind of ingenuity and courage that Zyralonians rarely saw. Alex approached, carrying his tablet and notes from the battle. He looked calm, confident, yet there was an energy in him that inspired those around him. Xylar turned to face him, claws clenched in habit. He was a proud general, not one to offer compliments lightly. Yet something had changed. "Human," Xylar said, his voice gruff. "Your methods, though disorderly, have proven effective beyond expectation." Alex smiled faintly. "Thank you, General. I only tried to help." Xylar's four eyes narrowed. "Help? You disrupted my plan at every turn. My troops were confused. My strategy, ruined." He paused, then added, "And yet, we won. The victory belongs to the army. And to you, human." Alex nodded politely. "I learned from your soldiers, General. They are disciplined, brave, and highly skilled. I only adapted to the unexpected. Sometimes plans must change to succeed." Xylar's pride wrestled with his respect for the human. He had always believed that order and precision were the ultimate path to victory. Yet now he realized that flexibility, creativity, and quick thinking were equally important. Perhaps humans, with their unpredictable minds, could teach the Zyralonians something new. As the day progressed, Alex moved among the troops, sharing observations and offering guidance. Soldiers who had initially been wary now sought his advice, eager to learn how to combine their discipline with human adaptability. Even the officers, once skeptical, began to see the value of this unique collaboration. Xylar observed quietly. He had been wrong to doubt the human. Alex had not only saved the battle, but had also inspired the soldiers to think beyond strict orders. The army had become stronger, not weaker because of the human's influence. In the evening, Xylar summoned Alex to the command hall. The two stood in silence for a moment, the sounds of the recovering army filling the room. Finally, Xylar spoke. "Human, I will admit something few Zyralonians would say. You are remarkable. Your species is unpredictable, yes, but also capable of brilliance. Your adaptability and courage have saved Zyralon today." Alex bowed slightly. "Thank you, General. I am honored to have helped. I hope this is the beginning of a lasting alliance between Earth and Zyralon." Xylar's claws twitched, a gesture that in Zyralonian culture meant contemplation. "Perhaps it is. If your kind can act as they did today, I see the value in working together. The galaxy is full of threats and uncertainties. Perhaps humans are exactly what we need, sometimes even more than precision." A faint smile crossed Alex's face. "Then let us learn from each other. Zyralonians are strong, disciplined, and precise. Humans are flexible, inventive, and unpredictable. Together we can achieve great things." The two looked out over the desert where Zyralonian soldiers repaired vehicles, tended to their wounded, and prepared for the future. The battle had ended, but the lessons learned would shape their civilization for years to come. Later that night, Xylar returned to his quarters alone, staring at the holographic map of the battlefield. His plans had been ruined in ways he had never imagined, yet victory had been secured. A strange feeling warmed his chest. Pride not in himself, but in the human who had taught him a new kind of strength. "Humans," he muttered softly. "Chaotic. Unpredictable, and yet extraordinary." Meanwhile, Alex sat in his quarters reviewing notes and writing observations. He understood that he had not only survived in an alien army, but had also made a difference. His human perspective, curiosity, adaptability, and willingness to act in uncertainty had turned potential failure into success. By the next morning, the first steps toward a formal alliance had begun. Communication networks were strengthened, joint training programs were discussed, and the idea of combined Earth-Zyralon patrols was proposed. Humans and Zyralonians, once cautious of each other, were now on a path toward mutual respect and cooperation. Xylar, walking among his troops, noticed the soldiers' newfound confidence. They had seen firsthand how unpredictability, when combined with skill and courage, could become a powerful force. And somewhere in the ranks, the human ambassador moved calmly, quietly shaping the future in ways no one had anticipated. As the sun set once more over Zyralon, General Xylar allowed himself a rare small smile. His plans had been ruined, his pride had been challenged. Yet through it all, the result was far better than he could have imagined. Humans were dangerous, yes, but in the best possible way. For the first time, Xylar believed that together, humans and Zyralonians, they could face any challenge the universe might throw at them. And perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy had room for unexpected heroes after all.